Today is January 4th, 2024, and I want to welcome everybody. Jocelyn, would you go ahead and read the mission statement, please?
Sure. The GCPLD Board supports the GCPLD mission, vision, and values through the following actions: ensuring financial stability, investing in staff development, providing service advocacy, and promoting district library innovation.
Okay. And let's see. Kevin, are you going to do roll call or?
I'll do it.
Okay. Since he's busy signing people in.
All right, Adrian,
Here.
Michelle,
Here.
Crystal,
On her way.
Jocelyn,
Here.
Susan,
Here.
and John.
Here.
Okay. The first thing on the call to order, comments from our last board meeting. I'm going to let Jamie say a few things, and then we've got, there was kind of a long list of items, and so we're also going to cover that in the trustee update and also the management report.
Thank you. Just wanted to mention that at our last public comment session, several comments were made that I think are misrepresentations. And I just wanted to kind of clear them up. Everybody, of course, is entitled to their own opinion, but I wanted to make it clear to audience, to board. We were contacted some time ago by the district attorney's office, who said that people were complaining about these materials in the library. And he said, wanted to let you know that it is in fact a First Amendment issue. You are not breaking the law. And I want to let the board know as well that the sheriff has also weighed in to say we don't have anything that's illegal in the library. The library does not have obscene material. It just doesn't. That decision can only be made by a court. It has not been made by a court. And moreover, we buy what the market offers and what our community requests. Moreover, the board has received advice from our council that to create a new obstacle for reading adult materials, putting them behind locked cases and checking IDs, in fact is a violation of the First Amendment. It's illegal. And so I want to make it clear that by what council tells us, what district attorney has told us, what the sheriff has told us, is that we are not breaking the law and we do not intend to. So I wanted to make that very clear. Thank you.
Okay. The next part on our agenda is the public participation, and I think most of you have a pretty good idea on how that goes. You have people sign up. We ask for 3 minutes per person, and who has that?
Hi, Joy.
Okay, Kim has that.
Hot potato.
And before we start, there is an individual that is not able to be here today that has signed up for her 3 minutes, and she will do that via phone message, like a speakerphone is what I'm trying to say.
Great. Adrian, do you want to start with the people that are here and then finish with the person on the phone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Great. Okay, Trish O'Grady.
That's the person on the phone.
Oh, okay.
So that's fine.
So we'll come back around.
I'll give her a call right now.
Okay, who's second?
Robin Pruitt.
Well, there she is.
Yes. Yes. Should have had it ready. I'm sorry.
Robin, if you want to give yours and then we can connect with Trish.
I've got her. Let me.
Okay, thank you.
I think.
Yeah, use that
Right
microphone.
Hey there.
You're on. This is Robin, and you're on.
Okay, you want to start talking?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, they can hear you.
Okay, I heard a yes. Okay, well, good afternoon. As you can see, I was not able to be there in person today. That's why one of the requests was to allow Zoom call meetings. So appreciate you allowing me to do it this way. What I mainly want to talk about this afternoon is I did put in the open records request. So I just want to go ahead and read that so everybody there is aware of what we're requesting. Requesting the annual salaries for 2023 for the following positions. The executive director, all 6 library branch managers, the education and events manager, the chief financial officer, the communications and marketing director, the facilities manager, the human resource director, the branch libraries director, technical services director, and the administrative assistants. I'd also like to be able to find out, because I could not find it in the 2022 audit report, on any kind of funding that this library is paying to the ALA, or if the ALA is funding our library somehow. I know you have an association with them. I wanted to know if there's any money exchange. This was submitted by email 2 days ago, I believe, with my name on it, John Lipkowski's, Robin Pruitt's name, and Tila Forehand. So that's my main objective today of calling in and asking, besides wanting to know what the response is going to be on the letter that I presented last month, which I understand that you're going to discuss today about changing the meeting times, allowing Zoom calls for patrons, increasing the time for public comment, and not sure what the other item I submitted was. But how's my time doing?
I'm not sure.
40
40
seconds.
more seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, so as you can see that I think it's important to record these meetings for clarification, for better communication, and no misunderstanding between the parties. And from what I understand, you're going to be taking applications for the open library board position, and I've read the bylaws where it states that you do not have to be a Rifle resident to apply for the open position, but it's preferred. So anyone within the legal residency is how it's stated, I believe. The legal residency can apply for the open library board position.
That's time.
So
Time,
I thank you for
please.
your time.
This time. Thanks, Trish. Thank you.
Thanks. Do you want to just stay there?
Sure. Might as well.
Since I think wasn't Robin next on the...
Okay. Good afternoon. Happy New Year, everyone. I really wanted to speak with Jamie LaRue in regards to your reference at the Freedom to Read in regards to Grapes of Wrath. You kept bringing up that book a lot. And I was wondering why you brought up the Grapes of Wrath. How does it compare to the books that we have in question? What is the reasoning behind it?
Do you want me to respond?
Well, actually, this is questions of the staff, but I'll leave that up to you.
The reason is, as I was talking about that book was one of the first 2 that resulted in the creation of the Library Bill of Rights. And the reason it was complained about was at the very end of the book. There were 2 complaints about it. One was that it was communist, and one was at the very end that there's a scene where there's an older dying man and he's being breastfed by a woman, and that was seen as obscene.
I don't remember that. I don't recall that scene. I read the book as a teenager, and I grew up in Kern County, so I was very familiar with the political ramifications that went on there. It had nothing to do with those. It had everything to do with the fact that the farmers in Kern County were taking advantage of the Okies who came from Oklahoma out to pick fruit. They were coming out there and they took advantage of them. Those people were so poor and they were starving to death and a lot of them did starve to death. And it really had nothing to do with a breastfeeding old man. I just have a real difficult time with that. I love John Steinbeck. I think he's an excellent author. I don't understand why that book you would bring up, because you're comparing apples to oranges. What we have is, we have a lot of things in the library that I'm sure that could be configured, obscene. But what we have are pictures, and the pictures implant something into the mind for a youngster. And it causes them to be drawn to that because of everything that they're going through during their young lives. So comparing the Grapes of Wrath to the Amande books are completely, I just think it's apples and oranges. I think it's a bad comparison. I think that what was going on with the Grapes of Wrath was purely political. And so this is my reasoning that I was questioning that. I just think that what we have here is completely different, has a complete different agenda. And I think that it's causing our youngsters to not grow up in a healthy type of environment. This type of an environment is not what I would want my children to be in. So that is my complaint, and that's my statement. So thank you for your time.
Robin Robinson.
Unable to be here, stuck in traffic.
Okay.
John Lipkowski.
My name is John Lipkowski from Silk. I'd like to give you a handout here. Mr. LaRue, a professional counselor, disagrees with you. I'm going to read a couple lines here. Based on my professional experience as a licensed professional counselor, supervisor, as well as many published resources available, children and teenagers who are exposed to pornography can face various types of mental and emotional relation problems. So this guy counsels people, and the only thing what I've said before, you people could be heroes here. You could set a precedent. The books that say, I don't have any with me, but it says on the book, with thumbnail or fingernail, little fingernail size, adult content. Why not put adult content? That's the only thing we want. Adult content behind glass. Every library has glass. There's only 30 to 50 books. Put them there. Then there will be no compromise. There will be no accident. I've talked to a 13-year-old, and he told me his friend is reading 10 count. I don't know how he got it or where he got it. He wouldn't say. He didn't want to convict his friend. So kids are getting into these books. I don't know if they're stealing from the library or whatever. It's just like that Finder series, number 9. That's how this all started. When I went and took all the books, some organization said, take all the books that are encouraging children to become homosexual. And at number 9, Finder happened to be there, which I showed you ladies. 4 of you ladies were there at the Parachute Library. You all looked at it and you thought it was okay for man-boy sex in graphic form. Most people don't think it's okay. We have 1,300 people. When will you listen to the 1,300 people that signed that said it's okay? There's thousands more, the silent majority. Now, I don't see 1,000 or 2,000 on the left that said these porn books or these obscene books, whatever you want to call them, not suitable for children. You know, let's raise the library, like I've said many times before, up to the level of a porn store. You must be 18 to be in a porn store. And people say the Playboy magazines of 50 years ago, they just showed topless women. They didn't show lewd sex acts, various different kinds of sex acts. They weren't as harmful as what the books you have right in the Silk Library or this library. Finder series, prison school, 10 count, and so on. They are just gross books, and I don't think any of you would show them to your children or grandchildren. So why do you leave them accessible to children in the library? Thank you very much. I hope you do the right thing. You'll be heroes. You'll have nationwide news. Thank you.
Judith Hayward.
Could you tell us your name and where you're from?
I have this written. My name is Judith Hayward, and I live in Parachute. I'm president of the Grand Valley Historical Society. Today, I'm here to personally thank the Parachute Library and their staff for the partnership with our society. Early in the 1990s, the Parachute Library staff, led by the former director, Holly Klinsman, preserved much of the history of Parachute, Battlement Mesa area prior to the formation of our historical society in 2000. Then when your library was undergoing expansion, we let the library move storage sheds onto our property, and one of the sheds became the collection point of all the unused library books. Eventually, we had a giant book sale at the restored historical Battlement Schoolhouse, and all the proceeds were given to the library. Recently, the new staff of the Parachute Library, Natalie Smith and Emerando Fregosa, have worked with us. The Society found hundreds of copies of the Grand Valley News, which was our newspaper, both hard copy and microfilm. Natalie and Emeranda, along with the wonderful Discover Colorado Historic Collection Workshop done by Jamie, is helping us to add these newspapers to the state collection. Now our citizens and everyone can go to the Colorado State Library Historic Newspaper Collection to see years of history. Finally, the Society and our branch library have partnered to an extremely successful historic book club that we've done for over a year. It's very hard for a group like the Historical Society to exist without being partners with other organizations in the community. I'm here to publicly thank you and the Parachute Library staff for helping in this, what I consider a fabulous partnership. Wow.
Carol O'Brien?
Yes.
My name is Carol O'Brien. I am a resident of Newcastle and have been there since 1995. I had the privilege of staying for the entire Board of Trustees last meeting. And I say that because I was enlightened as to the amazing things this library district is doing. And I would encourage people who come just for the comments to stay and listen to what this district is accomplishing. It's really so much more than just books in the library. It is a community resource, a community support, the most incredibly valuable resource to the community. So I want to say that first. The other thing is I've been giving a lot of thought to what has been said here by some of the commenters over the past few weeks. And all I hear from them is fear, darkness, an opposition to knowledge. They talk about the damage that's done to children, supposedly. Children are damaged and are vulnerable when they are ignorant and kept in darkness. Our children need to know about the world. I don't necessarily think the best way may be for them to read one of the graphic novels in question, but they're not intended for children. They're intended for adults. The kind of darkness and fear-mongering that is perpetuated in the comments I have heard has been put out there with with, I'm sorry, I get really worked up about this, but it has been put out there with lies and misdirection, and I have to wonder what the intent of that is, the real intent. If you have a population that is fearful and divided, they're easy to control. I don't think it's any coincidence that in this country right now, it is school boards and libraries that are being attacked mercilessly by this kind of darkness and hatred, fomenting misdirection and lies. I think there are genuinely people who care about these issues, who get sucked into these causes.
Next time.
Thank you.
May Gray.
Good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is.
Afternoon.
I am May Gray. I am from Newcastle, and I absolutely love my community, and I absolutely love the libraries. I have never really been a part of a community that has used their libraries as much as this one does. I have never been a part of a community that embraces the library and not use it as a tool, but use it as a gathering source, as a place to come, as a place to do events, as a place to listen to music. I mean, there was live music here a few weeks ago, in this very room. How amazing is that? You know, all any of us ever want to do, I would hope that everyone in this room would want to come up here and speak a message of love. But I don't hear messages of love. I hear messages of hate and fear, and I hear messages of, you know, be a hero because you're not doing what I want you to do, when you clearly have the absolute correct right and freedom to do what you are doing currently. The law is on your side. In fact, I would love to see this go to court, because I think we all know how it would end, in your favor. And then maybe this might end. So I really hope, a part of me does, that this continues to be pushed. A part of me hopes that this does end up in court, because not only can we make a ruling for here and finally end this madness that you all are going through for free, apparently. Thank you for your service and that you donate to us. None of you guys get paid, except for maybe Jamie. But the board, you guys, thank you for what you do. Very grateful. And to see this madness end would be great. To see this madness end for other libraries across the country would also be great. So I hope that this continues, because I'd really like to see it end for a lot of people, not just here, but all across the United States, because our libraries are valued and perfect as they are. Thank you.
Sherry Hunter.
I'm Sherry Hunter. I'm my daughter, 45-year resident of Silt, Colorado. Lovely place. I don't have a prepared statement. I'm just here to support you all. I use the library a lot. I'm so appreciative of the library, and I don't think anybody at the library is trying to undermine our children. And so I'm really just here to say thank you to all of you. Keep up the good work.
And Willow Brodsky.
Hi, I'm Willow Brodsman. I'm a Silt resident. I am just here to support you guys. I have 2 children and I utilize the library all the time. My children are never getting into books that are not age appropriate for them, because I watch my children when I have them in the public library. So I see no issue. I think you guys are wonderful. I have nothing but great things to say about our libraries here because they're just such a wonderful resource, and I don't want anything to happen to change any of the programs or anything to go away. So I'm just here in support. Keep on doing what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Oh, good. I mean, I meant good, because we can actually go to like, for a half hour, we've got everyone in. So thank you so much for participating in that. The next item on our call to order, and thanks, I think it was Carol that mentioned, it's so nice to have people stay for the entire meeting to actually see what we're doing and how well we're doing it. So with that said, we will go to the approval of the agenda. And that's it.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Crystal, second to that. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Consent agenda for approval will combine A and B. A is the minutes of the library board meeting from December 7th. And B is claims for board approval, the general fund through December 23, and Alpine Bank credit card statement through November. That's one item.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, John? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Moving on to our action items. And I believe, John, are you going to do this presentation?
Yes.
John Petrano,
Yep. I have a handout.
who's our facilities guy.
Yeah, happy to serve. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, John.
So today I'd like to, well, our team, our administration, like to prepare we prepared a vendor selection for you all today. Garfield County Public Libraries reached out to 5 general contractor companies in request for a bid proposal for the major remodeling of the Parachute and Newcastle branch locations. So a little bit of history about these 2 locations. The Newcastle and Parachute locations are the only buildings that have been remodeled. All the other buildings were actually built brand new. The Parachute's original structure was built in the early the 1980s and was remodeled and reopened in 2010. Newcastle was built in 1968 and was remodeled and reopened in 2012. The reason why I want to share those is because looking at our history to where we are now, times have changed. Pretty obvious. A little tidbit is in 1968, which was Newcastle's first opening, the national average for a price per gallon was 34 cents. Times have changed.
Wow.
So as times have changed, so do the way we work, so do the way we have to structure our buildings. And so that is the case right now. The communities are growing, our staff are doing things that are in ways of workflow and operations. You know, we need to change your launch. That's where we are right now, and why we decided to focus on these 2 buildings first. And the proposed vendor that we'd like to present to you all today is FCI Instructors, Inc. And their bid that they proposed to us for Newcastle was $3,902, $477. For Parachute, $4,776,259, combining with that price, $868,736. Like I mentioned, we had 5 different companies we reached out to, and only 2 presented a bid to us. So these are the two bids. We compared them, we looked at them, we called them and asked for further questions, but we really feel like FCI would be great. Before going into the reason why, I kind of want to share some scopes of work. You might be wondering, hey, what's going to happen in Castle Parachute? Without boring you with the colors of walls or the comfy chairs that we were going to get, but they're comfy. Some of the main things that are going to be changing. So looking at Newcastle will be the history room. We're reducing the size of the long room to about half, giving reading space and sitting space back to the main area, while still providing appropriate study room space in that room. So we're pretty much cutting in half and giving some reading and sitting space back into the main area. And also a maker space in Newcastle. Really excited about this. It's going to be a room near the Spanish collection that will be used for a variety of different library programs where kids can come in, they can get loud, be creative, and it's a space for a variety of different programs. The children's area will be expanded, and they're going to be removing the mountains and reworking stacks to provide necessary space for patron use. So you might think of the mountains being gone and think, oh, well, it wasn't an easy decision. And going back to what I mentioned before, times have changed. Communities are growing, more kids are coming into the building, and we need to structure things differently. So Anna was okay with it, and the team, we're going to be removing the mountains, making more space in the children's area.
Are you moving a mountain and making a molehill?
Oh, maybe I should clarify. The mountains are the little partitions.
Yeah, I was going to say, you might want to, welcome to Colorado, we're removing the mountains in the
there's
library.
children's partitions in the shape of mountains.
Okay.
Got it.
Thanks.
And lastly, the staff area, reworking the staff room to accommodate the work needed for the staff, also adding a quiet room for conference calls and focus work. So again, those are the main things that are going to be changing. And journey with me to Parachute as we head down I-70 west. We're in Parachute now.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
There.
Community room. Community room entryway / restroom area. So that area, as soon as you come in, will be completely reworked, improving the flow of patron traffic and unused space. The entire restroom is going to be shifted to the west side of the building, while also adding a gender restroom. So there was a lot of unused space in that long hallway going to the community room. We want to add a gender neutral restroom. So we're going to be reworking that whole area. Children.
And I should say that we are required actually by Colorado law to do that now. If we put in a certain amount of money, that third bathroom is now a state requirement.
Okay, thank you.
That's right. Children's area, kind of similar, but removing the wall out a little bit more, so more area will be in the children's area and providing a new stack layout. And the main public area, reworking the main public space for a better flow of traffic and adding a business center area where the printer machine and other supplies will be located. And the staff area, redesigning the staff room by expanding the walls to accommodate a new workflow and desk station layout, adding a glass door entrance, and for the first time in forever, adding a restroom for the staff. So all the staff here. So those are the main highlights. There's a lot of other things. We have a professional library consultant who's going to be giving us carpet, chairs, things like that. We're going to furnish the building really nicely. And moving on to supporting reasons for choosing SCI, they're very, very simple. First one is clear and detailed bid. The proposal that SCI presented was extremely detailed in terms of scope of work. And for me, when I look at a bid, when they're very clear, when the price is right there up front, when things, I don't have to ask too many questions, like that means a lot for me. And that's what SCI provided in their bid. Number 2, reputation of professionalism in large capital projects. The company itself has a presence in a few different states in the Midwest, 10 to be exact. Founded in 1978 in Grand Junction, they are a large company that operates in small regional teams serving their clientele with quality of service. Lastly, the price is lower than the other bid. The library will save over $270,000 going with FCI.
Woohoo!
So that is what we're presenting to you as our team, and let me know your thoughts, questions.
Well, FCI I was very involved with the expansion of the library in Picken County. And FCI we worked with them and they were great. They were great. They were communicative, they knew who to talk to when, if things were wrong, they fixed them. They were very good. Meetings were good. Yeah, so I support that choice.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a crazy idea.
Crazy idea.
Crazy. Well, it's just a crazy question, not a crazy idea, but a crazy question. Because our communities are growing, and I think about Newcastle. Well, also about Parachute, but Newcastle because it's kind of the one that I know better. What about keep building upstairs and make it more big?
That is a crazy question. We have thought about that, but however, we have not pursued that. We haven't contacted an engineer or someone who can provide, their thoughts. But it is an idea we've talked about.
I will say, Crystal, that usually to do that for a library, it has to be designed at the beginning to go up because it needs external support. And I don't think that that's there. When we first we were approaching these building projects, we saw them as refreshes. So they're kind of going in at around that $750,000 project thing. If we wanted to add structure to go up beyond that, we'd be talking probably 15, 20 million.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good idea.
Yeah.
Good question.
Are these two projects going to run simultaneously?
Yes, they will be.
Okay, and they're starting soon?
We haven't talked about starting dates. I will contact the company if you bless this, and then ask them when they're able to start.
And I will say too that when we first pitched this project, our very aggressive idea was to do the bidding, the design, and the construction in 1 year. That's not going to happen. I think what we've learned is that the scope of that redesign is almost a year in itself, and then probably a year before both of these projects will be complete. So what we'll try to do is to figure out a way to stagger the project so we're not closing 2 libraries at a time.
Good. Yeah, so one would close completely while the other one, one would close completely while it was, they would both
I think in both cases, we're trying to look for ways to keep it open as long as we can.
Okay.
But no promises just yet.
Okay.
Did you have a question? Oh.
Who's the other company in the bid?
The other company was the Home Group, Inc. We actually work with them here in Rifle, and that's why we pursued them as one of the 5. So they're a great company. We had a lot of expertise with them, but I think go into the 3 reasons why we chose FCI over them.
And was this, I think we had a lot of money in the budget for a refresh remodel for 2023 that wasn't used. Was this sort of the project that was intended to be?
Right. Okay. So most of our money has gone to the library consultant. First pass was to say, how much of this can we do with just equipment, because that's cheaper and faster. And so we've got kind of that package pretty well put together. But it does make sense to get the building set aside first.
Good. This is an action item.
Yes, it is.
Somebody do some action.
I move that we approve the vendor, FCI, to carry forth with the project, the improvement of the Parachute and the Newcastle Library.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none? Get busy. Okay.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. For our next vendor selection recommendation, I think we have Jen Cook for automated materials handling.
Mine is much more technical and less exciting.
Is it in color?
No.
Thank you.
Seen it?
We haven't seen it in writing.
So to give you some background, our existing AMH, automated materials handling is the official term of this type of equipment. We currently have setups in Rifle and Glenwood Springs that are no longer functioning, and we no longer have a contract with the original vendor. So we are looking to replace those systems. We reached out to 4 vendors and we received 3 bids. Our goal for replacing this equipment is better efficiency both for patrons and for staff. For our patrons, it means as soon as they interact with the machine, their materials are off of their record and checked in. For our staff, it means items are, they see less of what's called inventory touches, so how many times a staff member has to handle an item before it's returned to the shelf. So this reduces the time back to shelf so that items can be checked out again. And it frees our staff up for other work. In sending out this bid request, I did ask the vendors to propose additional solutions for the rest of our branches. As you can imagine, Newcastle, Silt, and Parachute have significantly smaller space. Carbondale is kind of in between. They have a little bit larger than the other 3, but smaller than Glenwood and Rifle. So what our proposed vendor came back with, FE Technologies, came back with options for Glenwood, Rifle, and Carbondale, as well as the other 3 branches. Our original budget for this project, which I believe was also on our 2023 budget that never got realized, was for $75,000. The last time we purchased this equipment was back in 2008. Prices have more than doubled since then. So that was my lack of knowledge of the industry. So we'll have to come back with a budget amendment later, but I will go into the price here in just a moment. So the reason we chose FE Technologies is first the cost. So our other 2 vendors came in the $290,000 range. FE Technologies came in at $218,000, which was about $78,000 difference. Savings to us, as well as their annual maintenance cost to keep these machines running, was also between 10 and 12 less than the other vendors. Their solutions, as I said, they were able to recommend solutions for all of our branches at this time based on the significantly higher cost than anticipated versus the time savings benefit that we would have for staff. We've decided to only focus on the 3 largest branches and not pursue any upgrades for our other 3 branches at this time. But they were able to expand on what, because their equipment is more, their equipment takes up less space. We were able to expand. Glenwood and Rifle both currently have what is 3 different bins that materials are sorted into automatically as they come through the chute. We will be able to expand that to 5 different sort, and the staff will be able to choose how those materials are sorted as they come in through the chutes. And then in Carbondale, we are able to add a machine that isn't currently there, which will sort into the 3 different sort capacities. So we're excited that they were able to provide those solutions. And then the other reason we chose FE Technologies is that we already have a relationship with them. If you recall, a couple of years ago, that's the company we chose to go with for our check-in and RFID systems. So they already know our libraries, they know
our statewide lending system and all the different formats that come in and out of our branches every day, and have worked through some of those issues with us already. And I think we like the idea of a seamless integration between both check-in and check-out. So that's what I'm asking you today, is to approve our vendor selection of EPI Technologies for our automated materials handling systems.
I have a really silly question. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right. I just realized that when I started explaining the bins.
And what I'm picturing is Willy Wonka.
So it's a conveyor belt.
Is it kind of like that?
It is a conveyor belt. So what you don't see behind the scenes, if you've ever turned in a book in Glenwood or Rifle, you get
That's
the
the last time I see them.
Yeah. So they go in through the chute and then they go down a conveyor belt. And based on the tagging that's on the material, it decides, is it going to it depends on how the staff decide. They could put everything that's going on hold and going into transit into one bin so that those are all ready to be tagged and sent out. They can separate children's items from adult items from media to make it faster for staff to take the items and get them back on the shelf. So yes, it's little Oompa Loompas back there.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
So, how well did they function before they stopped functioning, and have the branch managers have input into how these are going to improve efficiency?
Right. Amy, do you want to share how it worked in the past?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, no, it definitely does save time. 5 bins, whoa.
Yeah.
I can't imagine 5 bins, but yeah, there was one bin, if it didn't get checked in, it went there. There was another bin, if it went out to another library district, like a hold or something like that, or returning, it went there. Things that were checked in went there, so it was just really easy to sort it out. It definitely saves time, and it sounds like 5 bins.
Yeah.
And and it worked quite well until, of course, it got very old. So I'm all for it, yes.
So with training, yes, the branch staff will have input on how they want to sort their materials as they come in.
Okay.
Can we have a field trip after? So we can see it.
You can, but it's Ed.
I think conveyor belt still works. Yes.
Can you change the way that you sort things?
Yes. In fact, you can, as I understand, they'll be able to set it up even by different sorts on different days. So maybe on, what am I trying to say? Storytime day, they have a special bin for children's materials. But on weekends, you know, or over a holiday weekend, maybe they want to do a different sort because there's going to be more materials coming in that staff, between the time staff will be able to. Yeah, so they can program different sorts and change it as needed.
I like that it's being handled by one vendor. That
I
really
do too.
simplifies a lot of things, and you've got 2 different ones. And that's been working out pretty good with the RFIDs.
Pretty good. You know, there's
going to be some glitches.
There have definitely been some glitches. The company is newer in the U.S. They've got a lot of experience outside of the U.S. Their U.S. staff is a little less experienced. So we are struggling a little bit with every time we have an issue, they have to check in with their overseas staff to make sure they're fixing it correctly. So there are some bumps in the road, but we feel like we have enough of a relationship with them that we can work through it. And we got good, we were able to get references from other libraries who have experienced the same as us, some of those bumps in the road, but they also have continued their relationship with the vendor because
And I think what makes it so complex is that we have so many different libraries in the Prospector system and the Marmot system, everybody does their tags in a slightly different way. So that's kind of the trick, is to make the whole system work together.
Cool. Okay. Action item.
Do we need to approve the action item B?
That's what we're on.
Right. I make a motion, we approve the vendor selection for the automated material handling units.
Okay, and we'll insert the name of FE.
F-E.
F-E. F-E. Technologies would be the name of the company.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Get to work.
Very complex project. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, Jen.
Took a lot of analysis.
Boom, bop, boom, bop. I'm going to be doing that all day. Okay, the next item was from last board meeting, and we're having a discussion about board meeting times and remote access. Do you remember that discussion? Well, we're going to continue it. Some thoughts before we have any.
I thought we voted on it last time.
No, we had a very long motion made by John, remember that? That we would just, kind of think about it, but we did approve on all the dates and the locations. The thing we have to talk about right now is the meeting time. Some people wanted it at 6, some of us wanted it at 2. And there was also a question about Zoom. And so I'm just going to throw this out. This is my personal opinion, and of course it's all a board decision, but my personal opinion is that we continue to have it at 2 o'clock, but that we do incorporate as the Zoom for public participation, so that we have that option. And the main reason that I really, really want this 2 o'clock meeting is because of y'all. Some of you remember, perhaps in years gone by, when we had meetings at 6 o'clock, and it was in the winter, and we'd either drive to Parachute or to Carbondale, and we were the only ones there except the person taking roll. Why? Because the staff had worked a complete full schedule. It was 6 o'clock at night. There weren't people, we weren't doing censorship, and we were there working in a vacuum. This is so much better, where we can see people, get to know you, you get to know us. We're not like two separate entities. We're a family. We're working together towards the, towards the same goal. And I just thought, oh, if we went to 6 o'clock, we'd be going right back to that where no one shows up. And you're not that sharp. I mean, not you guys, but we're not that sharp. At 6 o'clock at night, because we're working and doing stuff, and you're really tired. So that's all I'm going to say. And talk amongst yourselves.
Adrian, would you clarify the Zoom meeting? You said for public participation. What do you exactly
I mean only for public participation, which would be and we would follow the same format and rules that we have already established for our public participation, 3 minutes, just the basic same format. It would be for public participation. It wouldn't be for trustees.
I think asking trustees to be here is really important because it establishes a stronger relationship with staff and attendees at the meetings. It's more spontaneous conversation. I think it's just more human. And I think it's really important, especially today, because I think we're losing some of that. As far as time of day, I think 2 o'clock is better because of everything you said. ditto. So.
So I do think that we need to be aware of people who can't make it during the day, whether it's members of the public or whether it's a new board member. And so I'm not sure which way I'm going to vote, but as we're discussing, I think that needs to be said, at least, that a lot of people work during the day and they can't show up at 2 o'clock. And we need to be mindful of that.
But if we have the option for Zoom, just like they do in other entities, to have public participation, it seems like a good compromise to me.
Yeah, the technology does change things. And certainly I would take that as part of something that I consider while voting. But it is a change. And for board members as well, if there's a new board member or existing board members, I agree as well that the face-to-face interaction is very important. We need to see the public sitting right there, not from behind the screen. I think that is important. But I do think that, again, given the sort of balance, that we should at least consider Zoom even for trustees as an option while there's a recognized need to be here in person.
So would you consider maybe limiting the number of times a trustee could attend by Zoom? So that they were, because
Yes, I think that might be a way to handle it, to encourage in-person attendance, but allow for video when work requires it, when home duties require it. There are reasons that, a potential absence could be avoided by using the technology.
And then also tying that in with the excused and unexcused. Is that kind of what?
Susan has it.
I think that's a slippery slope, John. I think if your priority is, first of all, you're allowed 3 excused absences a year. That's quarter of a year, a little less. But this is responsibility that we all said we would do. And if I think it's slippery slope. Well, today I can't get out of my meeting. Tomorrow I had surgery, I can't get out of that, I can't make time. So I think it's a real slippery slope. There's been a core of us that have been here every single meeting through thick and thin, and we've needed everyone here. Especially the one in Carbondale was particularly brutal. And not to be present is a big deal. And if you say, well, okay, well, Zoom, I'll just call in Zoom, or it's inconvenient for me, that's what you use one of those excused absences for. So there is a buffer.
Yep, no, I understand, and I recognize the need to be in person, and when we're sort of balancing whether it's at night versus daytime even for attendance, I think we should factor that in.
Also something that probably for summer we can sacrifice doing it in the afternoon, and probably in winter we can go back to 2 p.m. if it is more convenient for the rest, for traveling and for the winter. And probably in summer we can do it in the afternoon. So that way it's a sacrifice for both sides. It's not that I don't want to be in every meeting. I have different schedules. And I know if we start advocating for more representation and more equity in this board, we need to be available to sacrifice time too.
What do you mean?
Well, one day we need to, it's not that we're going to stay here forever. We want to be, at least my idea, this board to be more represented from different parts of the community.
And we are.
But I think 6 o'clock, no one's going to show up. And the 2 o'clock allows the library personnel to show up. And it's always a robust participation. And if there is somebody that really wants to be here and can't make the 2 o'clock and can't do the Zoom, please bring it to our attention.
I'm kind of seeing this as 2 issues. One being, let me just think it out loud here. One is that we have the meetings at 2 o'clock and we offer Zoom for public participation. That's one thing. The other would be voting on or determining about trustee, participation via, Zoom. And I think that's a good idea to incorporate the 3 excused. Have a little, we have to use a little flexibility on that. But
So then what if a person does do 9 meetings per Zoom for whatever reasons, because it's not written in?
Well, that's what I say, that would be a vote. That's a separate issue. That would be a separate issue from having our regularly scheduled 2 o'clock meetings, but have, in addition to our public participation, we would also incorporate Zoom, via Zoom, and we would have the exact same parameters that we have already.
So now I'm confused. So is it just the public participation in the Zoom that would be presented, and then the rest of the meeting would be
Yes,
not on Zoom? Just public participation?
The speaking part, it'd be recorded.
Okay.
Just like
But the
a
rest of the meeting would not be?
Mhm.
Well,
no.
I'm not sure you agree about
Oh.
that. So I think the notion is that with Zoom, there's a laptop that's here, and it records the entire meeting.
Right, okay.
But you
yeah.
would still have the opportunity for people to remotely address the board.
Okay, so the whole meeting would be available?
The whole meeting is
okay.
It's very
okay.
similar to
Yes.
what the county board of county commissioners has.
Okay.
It's almost identical.
Yeah.
It'd be like that, but there would be a space, just like they have in their meetings, where there's a space where we would have public participation.
Okay.
So we don't continue on talking back and forth of that. I would see if we could have a motion to,
I make a motion that we continue our meetings at 2 p.m. and we open up Zoom for public participation.
period.
Period.
All right, that's the motion has been made.
Okay.
All right, any more discussion on this particular motion?
Once again, if we can make it during the summer at 6 p.m. and winter at 2 p.m.
Okay, that's the discussion, okay? All right, all in favor of Susan's motion that was seconded by Jocelyn, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Yours is an aye or a nay?
Well, I'm opposed.
Yeah,
So
I was
whatever
voting
you're supposed
opposed.
to say, oppose.
Okay, so for the records, there was 1 nay and the rest were?
No.
Two nays? Okay. All right, that is a quorum, and so that does pass. Do you want to have some more thought about the participation of trustees via Zoom at next month's meeting?
Isn't that in our handbook? And can that be a simple vote, or do we have to go in and modify the handbook for trustees' participation?
The trustees don't have anything to do with the handbook.
Or wherever I read that trustees are allowed to miss 3.
That's in our bylaws.
Bylaws. So you're suggesting we change our bylaws?
No, I just want people to, the question seems to be, in person versus always being on Zoom. And it seems to me like we could have some meeting of the mind on that and say, because things come up, and at least they can call in or, be on Zoom.
Right, I don't know if we need to figure that out, or at least, I don't know what the rule is for being on the phone, which we have allowed as well. If we've just voted to implement Zoom technology, so that will now be available, and so it can replace participation by phone, and I don't know if we currently have a rule.
We don't have any participation by phone except for this one time today where Robin did that. This is only for our for trustees and our legal counsel.
That's what I mean though, if we're talking about trustees. I participated
Yeah.
by phone
Yeah.
one time this past year.
Right.
And I would hope that with the technology now available, we
And-
could participate by Zoom as a replacement by phone.
Exactly.
But I get your point, Susan, which is it's much better to be here in person, and we may need a rule on it, but I don't know if we currently have a rule on phone participation.
There's nothing listed in the bylaws about phone calls.
Beth, you want to jump in on anything?
Sure. What I'll say is that from a legal perspective, attendance in person, attendance via Zoom, or attendance via phone are now permitted, and that is kind of a change in the law. It did used to be that if a trustee was participating via phone, or, this is honestly predates Zoom, or the prevalence of Zoom at least, but if trustees were participating via those methods, then they would be allowed to watch but not vote. However, now, obviously with the change and essentially after 2020, the law has been changed to specifically say that a trustee or any director may participate and vote through electronic means. And again, electronic means include the phone and a Zoom platform.
Okay.
In terms of the bylaws themselves, I don't think it would require a revision to the bylaws because, as you said, the bylaws only discuss this notion of missing, being absent from 3 meetings, but participation via phone and Zoom, while it doesn't say specifically in the bylaws, under the law, it doesn't count as an absence.
Okay, thank you.
So could we could we make it an action item for next?
We can table it.
Month, yeah,
Yeah.
and have a month to think about it.
Well, and then in the meantime, working with John maybe on how to get this structured with the Zoom for next, have it, we've just approved it to have that in place next month.
Should it be an action item or a discussion item next year?
Well, we sometimes have discussion before we have action. Sometimes we have action and then we have discussion. So she's suggesting that we think about it and then we have it as an action item and we'll discuss it. But I think we can, I know we can come up with something that works well for everyone in order to get it done.
If it's legal, why are we discussing it?
I guess,
well, we've done it in the past. We've called in. I've called in during COVID. We had our meetings that way. If it's legal for us to do that, we all agree it's better if we can be here. But if it's legal for us not to be here and it allows us to have a quorum.
Was that a motion?
I don't see that we even need to do anything. We just continue as we have been. Does it need a motion? Can you?
What do you think, Beth?
I don't really think it needs a motion. I think this is more just a policy of the board, on how you want to attend. So I don't think it needs anything formal in that regard. But I agree. You have already kind of started that precedent. So you're not exactly changing anything. I think you're just kind of refining how the board as an entity feels about that type of participation.
Okay. Thanks, Beth. Okay, so we had, you want to read the last thing we just approved? Who has that?
You guys approved continuing the meetings at 2 p.m. and to open Zoom for public participation.
And you have the nays and the ayes and the nays.
Yes, I have that Sue made the motion, Jocelyn made the second. There were 4 yeses and 2 noes.
Okay, thank you. See how it drags on, you guys? What if we had started at 6? I'm not kidding, you'd be going, I'm hungry, I'm cranky, and it's already after 3. Okay, so the next thing on our action item is board office elections for president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. This is a slate for this coming year. We do this every year. This is for 2024. I have a slate of, I have spoken with everyone that was on the slate last year, They have all agreed to serve in the same position. Thank you. And so we have a slate of officers for 2024, and they would be as follows. President Adrian Rippy-Sheehy, Vice President Jocelyn Durantz, Treasurer Michelle Foster, Secretary Susan Hughes.
I move to approve the slate of officers as just read by President Adrian Rippy-Sheehy.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody volunteer or anything else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Susan? Opposed? Okay. Congratulations, thank you for serving. Yeah, thank you so much. And then, let's see, very quickly, under discussion items, my trustee update is just that next month, February, at some point, we're going to post a notice of a vacancy for the trustee position in Rifle. That will be sometime next month. So that's the update on that. Jamie, your management report.
Okay, just a couple of quick updates. I'll probably address this again next month as well, but when Trish was on the phone, she made a comment about submitting an open records request, and I came in yesterday at about, it was 10:45, and we responded by 11:45. So all that information has been distributed to her already by email, so I want to let you know that we followed our process around the Colorado Open Records Act. She has the information. I wanted to kind of give the board an update. That,
Sorry, Jamie, 10:45 p.m.?
AM.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, what?
In fact, it was like 10:06, I think,
Yeah.
when she said it. We were in a meeting, and then we got it at 11, and we had it to her before noon.
Did you all get a copy of that?
I sent it to you to distribute.
Okay, I'll just, okay.
Do we know she got it? Because it didn't sound like she did.
I received it.
I know that it was
Yeah, and she was a
emailed to her.
recipient, so I don't, I will forward that to you at
That's an interesting
10:55.
question, like, we received it by email, so I responded by email.
Mhm.
I could mail it as well.
Yeah, no, just asking because of her
'Cause
public
it's that-
comments.
yeah.
Yeah.
She might not have had a chance to.
But we turned it around within an hour. So.
Yeah, impressive.
It was very, yeah, it was fast.
Okay, and then wanted to mention too that I have sent in a request to VOLA at the Board of County Commissioners to say that our board presentation would be on January 15th. So Adrian said she is available for that. So
Kevin?
it's so much fun if anybody else wants to come.
I
Only
can
invite.
come. I
Okay.
can go.
Okay, yeah, that's good. And I'll be talking about, there's a couple of things that I want to mention. One of them is, this is kind of a sneak preview for Kevin. Kevin did a wonderful analysis, 20 years worth of revenue of the district, from the founding in 2008 to projected in 2028. And I feel like I would like to represent that graph to the Board of County Commissioners as well, because you'll see why in a minute. And I also want to talk a little bit about the community interviews with them, but I wanted this board to see everything first. So there's that. And then some other follow-up items, again, that Trish had recommended to us. One was about allowing 30 minutes or 10 speakers for public comment. At present, our bylaws require, our policies require us to say it's typically up to a 15-minute comment period, but you have the ability as president to expand it to 30. That's exactly what you did today. My sense is that for all but maybe one or two times, that has been more than sufficient. And I feel like setting aside 30 minutes for what typically winds up being an hour-and-a-half board meeting seems like kind of a lot. So my recommendation to the board is to say, I think you're in pretty good shape for policy. We can expand it to accommodate a greater demand, but it isn't necessary to make the change.
Well, and a comment on that too, our policies and the policies and procedures say that 3 minutes per person. If there's more than 3 people having the same topic that they want to talk about, we ask that they assign a spokesperson. Today it looked like it was pretty, 3 or 4, so I just kind of let it go. And again, that's why I didn't need to be smart when I said, oh good, at the end, but I did. And it was because it was 25 minutes, of the 30. So just keep that in mind. Like if we have 15 people or 20 people, I will say you need to get us whatever you're speaking about. Have a spokesperson.
So when is that determined? How do we know what they're going to say? And when do they?
I just mentioned that if there's that larger group of people, we don't know what they're going to say, but I would make that announcement. If there's a group of 20 people here and they all want to tell us what a great job we're doing, they need to assign a spokesperson. How's that?
It just depends on how well coordinated things are ahead of time.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
And if we see 20 names on the list, we
yeah,
can ask.
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
there we go.
That's how
There we
we
go.
go.
But we have it, I've got right here, I can read it.
Yeah.
So, but I think this is working. I think this is working
Yeah,
well.
I do too.
And then the other issue that came up was the request that we ensure that only residents of the county speak. And I'm kind of opposed to this because my sense is when people are commenting as the public, they're not making a decision. And often I think we find that there are visiting authors or neighboring people who come in, they say, we're sharing materials across the entirety of the Western Slope. And they might come in and say, no, I happened to come here and find that there was a resource that you had that I found very useful. But it seems to me that we're serving a much larger community. We should make it possible for the larger community to speak to us.
I agree, because there's a lot going on in other libraries that we could benefit hearing about.
Yeah, listening to best practices.
Rather than sometimes reinventing the wheel or just hearing getting some new ideas.
Or even, I think you had a point too about international librarians.
Well, some of you may have noticed this pretty necklace that I have on today. If you haven't, see me after the meeting. I got this at I'm a member interest group of the International Library Cultural Exchange. And one of the things that they're working on is setting up, you know what Sister Cities International are, is sister city libraries type of a thing. And so one of the things that was just discussed recently was, coming to a board meeting or something, and they're from all different parts of the country, and particularly in Colorado, just to give some information. And I thought, well, we need to have that, not just within our county, but surrounding counties. The more we can collaborate, like you say, and learn what best practices are, they would be a good idea.
Okay, so that's just kind of recommendations, but it sounds like there's general agreement about those issues. Do you
No,
need to
sorry, I'm fighting
lower
with
blinds
this
for you? Yes, okay, very good, thanks.
Oh, thank you.
I can see.
We had to make her walk all the way up to push a button. Thank you.
I was looking to pull it.
Not as complicated as I thought.
And I was so glad that I was able to
I know. Glad about that.
Okay,
What are we gonna do?
the kind of next thing I'd like to do, Nancy, if you come forward. This is kind of a report on one of my pet projects for the year. One of the things that there are many ways that libraries have tried to figure out how do you gather the concerns of the larger community to figure out if you're serving them well. And things have been done in terms of demographics, they've been done in surveys, focus groups. The method that we chose was focused interviews of community movers and shakers. And so we did the broad steps of that process was we took one of our staff meetings to divide into branches and say, let's think about people in the business community, not-for-profit, education, faith-based. Who else am I leaving out here? We had a number of other groups that we'll talk about here in a second, right? And then we sent out librarians in terms of 2 at a time, one to interview, one to kind of record all these things. And what we were attempting to do is to tap into the wisdom of our community. So we would say to somebody, as you think about the people that you serve, your constituents, what are the issues that you think will matter to them most over the next 18 to 24 months? And we got very, very rich responses about this. And so to kind of walk you through that, I thought I'd have Nancy, who managed the actual logistics of this process, talk about that, and then we'll talk about what we learned.
Yes, so what you have in front of you is the community themes that we identified. But before I get to those, I just wanted to talk about all the data that we collected and who we collected it from. So we conducted 85 community interviews between our 6 communities. And we did that in about a 2-month period of time. You know, I think our branch managers are really to be credited for helping to motivate and organize their staff to get out in the community and do these. We had 62 unique staff participate in this. That's 76% of our staff led one of these interviews. So it's an incredible participation by our team. We also had one board member, Adrian, also conducted an interview. We had a really robust data collection, I believe. I was really hoping for 60, and we far exceeded that. So, in terms of the people that we interviewed, collectively as a group at that fall staff meeting, each library location started brainstorming names of people in their community to talk to in sectors like business, civic leaders, education, school districts, elected officials, faith-based communities, non-elected government, healthcare, news media, and nonprofit. And so we made sure that we reached, at least every community reached somebody in one of those sectors. 21% of the interviewees were from the business community, 22% from education community, non-elected officials like police, community development, that sort of thing. We had 14% and 12% nonprofits, and then the rest, around 5% or so in the other sectors, were reached. And then in terms of other demographic information, a little less than half of the people that we spoke to were women. 29% were men. We had a couple teens we talked to. And 16% were persons of color, or at least I was able to identify that from the interviews. Largely Hispanic, but not exclusively. And then, you know, we also wanted to be sure that we reached the LGBTQ community. So if they did self-identify, I was able to identify that. So that was about 4% of the people. Could have been larger, but they would have had to have self-identified in the interviews. And so as a result of those interviews, Jamie and I took a deep dive into the data to figure out what were the prevailing themes that we saw overall in all the communities. And there were 6 major themes, and we do have these prioritized in terms of the ones that we heard the most. So housing, the lack of affordable housing and the lack of inventory was the single biggest concern overall from all the interviews. Second was concern over mental health. This showed up depending on the community in different ways. Sometimes it was specific to seniors, sometimes it was specific to children, sometimes it was specific to the LGBTQ community and higher prevalence of suicide among that community. The third prevailing theme was this idea of building community. People really want a sense of community, a sense of a unified community, and wanted Garfield County to be a place that celebrated its diversity and its culture, that could have civil discussions about divisive issues. Every community talked about outreach to the Hispanic community in terms of either language justice, awareness of and access to resources, health resources, legal or otherwise. Mentions of the desire for inclusivity and some concerns over racism were also mentioned in some of our interviews. Transparency around meetings, government meetings, and the need for better intergovernmental cooperation, regional cooperation. And also concern around maintaining community character in some communities and local engagement in events. It seems like since COVID, people really feel like less people are engaging within their individual communities. And so that was also a concern. The economy, as you might imagine, was also a big concern. That was fourth. Food insecurity, inflation, poverty, concerns around growth and development, and then also from the business community, concerns over higher rents, chamber support, city support, or lack thereof in those individual communities. And then one big thing we also heard was workforce retention, workforce shortages, and really this notion that when our young people graduate, how do we get them to stay here? Can they stay here? Can they afford to stay here and live here, or are we losing them to other communities? So that was also a big concern. The fifth theme is what we're calling the quality of life, and so that was around different things in terms of some concerns around climate change, access to open space and water, the desire to preserve our history, whether it be historical societies and preserving our unique artifacts and documents. I'm so happy that there's a nice
Judith.
Yes, great theme. We're already doing this in Parachute, helping preserve the history of Parachute, the Parachute community. Another big concern that we heard was really around, parents and the lack of, just this idea that there's less quality of life for many parents who have to work long hours and also commute long distances, and that they're not able to be as involved in their children's lives as they would like to be, or involved within the community itself, especially in terms of like volunteerism. There were a desire for more public art in some communities. And then lastly, concerns around safety, whether it's crime, whether it was substance abuse, and also in a couple communities, concerns around like wildfire preparation, emergency preparedness as well. And then lastly, the sixth theme that we identified was around education. Certainly concerns around an achievement gap in schools, especially as a result of COVID and school closures and online learning and those sorts of things. Also around sort of student behavior, concerns around student behavior, a lack of respect and stability in the classroom. And then lastly, a lack of not enough resources for our ELL students who are not only going to school but also have to learn a second language as well. So concerns around that. So those are our six main themes, and then some of the sub-themes that came out of those as a result. So Jamie and I have worked with our branch managers to schedule community debriefs in each individual community to talk about kind of their customized themes. And so I think Jamie sent you an email with a list of those, but we start those at the end of this month. Yeah, it's in your inbox. At the end of this month, so we'll have 2 in January, and then remaining 4 will be in February. So we'll go to every location and invite the people that we interviewed to come, as well as any other interested member of the public, so we can present them with the themes that were unique to their community, and then ask them, did we get it right? Is there anything else that you would like to tell us? And let them know that what we're doing with this is looking for the ways that our expertise, our resources and staffing can also intersect and impact some of these community issues. In terms of, there were some things that are specific to different communities, which is why we want to have these 6 meetings. For example, in Rifle, the biggest concern that we heard in Rifle was about community members struggling with basic needs such as housing and food, and the rising cost of living. We also heard in terms of government providing information in English and Spanish, so this idea that of language justice, that our community members are receiving the information that they need in the language that they speak. And I'll just jump around here a little bit. But so in Parachute, it was a little different. I would say the main concern in Parachute was around concerns about student achievement, and also concerns around the decreasing quality of life because of the long commutes and the long work days for many of our parents. In Carbondale, there were many concerns around affordable housing, some tension with newcomers, and differing values or perception of differing values. And also a real concern that Carbondale may be losing, you know, its diversity because of the housing crisis that it's facing and the unaffordability of housing up there. So just 3 examples of how community by community, some of the themes or the priorities of those themes vary a little bit. Questions for me? Comments?
Great job.
I would love to have this information hand out to us, like not only like this, but more.
The comments?
All the comments.
Yeah. I mean, we can we will anonymize them because we don't want to tie it to
Yeah.
specific people, but we can certainly do that and make those available.
And I would say we're also available to do presentations to councils if they're interested.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, we would love to talk to Newcastle.
Yes, and about that, the meeting, I saw the email that you sent, that day is the council meeting. So I know there's at least 2 or 3 councils in Newcastle who are really active. Well, everyone is really active in the community, but at least 3 that I know that probably will love to go to this specific meeting, but it's kind of the same time for council.
Do more than one?
We can do it.
Conflicts, okay.
And not to get out back on Willy Wonka again, but I couldn't see all the numbers on this. So just could you guys see it?
No,
Like,
I
didn't,
write it down.
you know, like, just say,
Yeah.
this is one, write it out. You see?
Yeah, actually, in one of our earlier versions, the icon was larger, so
Well,
we'll fix that.
it could still be,
Yeah.
but
the other
anyway,
thing I
just.
say is when we do mind maps, you start at 1 o'clock and go clockwise.
Uh-huh.
So that would be
But,
helpful.
and the reason I'm saying that is because this is the same information that's going to be presented along with our budget.
Right.
To just give the county commissioners an update on
Okay.
what we're doing for the community. And we're listening.
And also probably after presenting this, after presenting this to the county commissioners, I think it will be really nice to share this with the rest of nonprofits and media.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is amazing. This
Yeah.
information is like finding the chicken who makes the
Golden egg.
yes. Thank you. Yeah, this is really. There's a lot of people who pays for this kind of
Yeah.
deal.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mhm.
So
A
this is
lot
what-
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our staff did an amazing job leading these interviews and then, you know, dictating the notes as a result. And I think for them, you know, they found some of these interviews just incredibly inspiring and also just a great way to see those connections that
Yeah.
exist between different community partners and, you know, naturally you see ways that people could be connected to each other in ways that they're not right now
Right.
or to the library. And some of our branch managers are even continuing these interviews throughout, like it's their goal to continue these interviews throughout the year ahead so that they can stay in good contact with the communities that they serve.
So you said something about groups and 6 and presentation. I missed what that was.
Yeah, so we'll do individual community debriefs at each 6
Each of the branch
libraries,
communities.
each 6
Oh,
communities.
okay.
Yeah, so
Okay. It's in your
Hershey, Carbondale,
inbox.
et cetera.
It is. They just said it.
okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I guess there's 2 things I want to add kind of to this frame. One of them is, here's what happens next. So after we do these debriefs and we get any corrections or revisions or additions, then we're going to sit down and try to prepare for the board retreat our suggestions for initiatives that we'll do over the next 3 years that address some of these issues. And I started off by, you know, I'm sure many people have heard me say this, but I'll keep saying it because I believe it so deeply. It is not the job of the community to make a great library, it's the job of the library to make a great community. And so by having organized all these things, you say, what is an appropriate library response for each of these concerns? And just to give you a sense of what we're doing already, like under housing, and you'll be getting a invitation to this on February 22nd at the Youth Theater, 1 to 3:30. Kevin managed to, at one of his CFO meetings around the state, meet a woman named Lori Best, who's been in charge of affordable housing in Breckenridge for 30 years. And so she's tried a lot of things, and we've begun to talk about some of those things in Garfield, but she has 30 years worth of evidence.
Nice.
So what we can do is we can be a convener, and we can invite all of the county planners and the city planners and the major employers of the area and realtors and get a whole bunch of people and construction people to listen to some of these ideas. So that's something where the library as a convener of important topics can be powerful. Under mental health, I think I mentioned already that we've already teamed up with county mental health players to say, let us be a host for quarterly meetings about key mental health issues around the county. Again, we can surround that with all kinds of information and books and things. So if somebody comes to one of those presentations, they can leave with useful information and service directories. Under building community, a lot of interest in that, celebrating culture, and of course our Hispanic festival that we've done, and posadas that we've done. These are all things that are already addressing these needs. Under the economy, some of the money that we are getting in 2024 is going to be used to join that partnership that we've heard presentations about. In the quality of life, we have doing under the climate change and concern about natural resources, we're joining CLEAR, which was a recommendation from the county commissioners. So we're already really trying to mobilize our resources to solve the things that our community cares about. So I'm very pleased that this is a wonderful kind of roadmap, and this is the basis for our long-range plan.
This is so exciting.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is.
And I feel like now we know a lot more people.
Absolutely. Maybe 5 more.
Okay, anything else? That's it.
No. Thank you to our staff. They really
Thank
did
you,
the heavy
staff.
lifting.
And I again, kudos to Nancy. I've done this kind of project as a consultant with 10 different libraries now. Nancy consistently gets more interviews faster than anybody else in the country.
There's a reason, because she's so kind.
Okay, and then I guess just the last thing is I had commented in my written report about kind of the end of the year reflections. I just want to just touch briefly on those. I was very pleased to say that one of the things that I see having happened over the past couple year and a half or so, I believe we have established a very healthy culture within the library. And again, the way that I measure this is that, do you hear laughter in a room ever? And we have a pretty funny group here, and they're thoughtful, and there's a lot of jumping in to collaborate with each other, so I view that as a big success. The staff empowerment is a big piece of that, and kudos to the board for supporting continuing education, for supporting that kind of people who are trapped under this mountain of student debt, to be able to provide some help for them in the years when we had some of that extra money. The intellectual freedom challenges, although it's been, I think, stressful on occasion, has also been a very useful thing. And I feel that at this point, everyone on our staff knows what our policies and procedures are. And I think that every one of the media outlets also has a greater appreciation of what the real purpose of the library is, to investigate the culture around us and to seek information and solutions. And then I had a fascinating conversation with Jen where we were talking about how do you feel good about something when all these big, messy projects are going on? But things like doing the infrastructure things that we're investing in for this AMH liberates staff time for us to go out and talk to people in the community. And so this kind of investment in infrastructure lays the foundation for us to be more deeply integrated into our community. And then increased use. I'm talking to a lot of libraries around the country, and they're still struggling to get back up to where they were before COVID. We are ahead of where we were before COVID. So I set some of these goals that I pulled out of the top of my head to say, and we're going to increase circulation by 20%. We only did 10. Other libraries are declining. And so the fact that we're reaching out and we're managing to move more of these materials means we're getting more books in people's houses, and that's where they do some good. And then finally, just to kind of end up this idea about turning outward, I truly believe that the trap for every organization is to get so institutionally arrogant that you only look inside. And the fact that we've done all of these conversations with people, building the relationships, hearing what people really care about in the community, and demonstrating our value as a social asset. This is what the future of librarianship should look like. So those are my reflections, and I'm happy to hear any of your reactions to any of that.
Kudos. Very good.
Very
Yeah,
good.
I remember when, about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, we were all trying to rethinking what the purpose of the library was, and you're doing it. So
we are doing it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I applaud you all.
thanks, you're a big piece in that too. That concludes my report, Madam President.
Okay, thank you so much. Did you have a
Just a good report about a good year. Thank you.
Okay. Kevin? Kettler. CFO. Financial report.
Now one of the coolest graphics you'll ever see.
Oh, I know.
There's colors and a few numbers, but the colors tell the story.
Yeah.
Just for you, Adrienne.
Thank you so
What
much.
about me?
And
And
Crystal.
for Crystal.
I know John loves the numbers, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
you know.
Next time, print one for John without the colors.
We could do that.
We'll put some pencils in front of you, you can color it in.
Please.
This is
So
amazing.
the reason why this didn't end up in the packet is because I finished it on Tuesday, and Jamie and I have been working on it ever since, so that's why.
This is so good that we need to see it now.
All right, 20 years worth of revenues right here. This is sales tax and property tax only, because that makes up 99% of our revenue. So I didn't include anything else because that's irrelevant to the big picture of what we're talking about here. Anyway, here's a nice pretty graph. The top graph is blue and red. The blue is for property tax revenue, and the red is sales tax. And just to do a look at this, this really tells a story of our history, does it not?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the very beginning, 2008, when we first formed the district, we were, I have a few extra copies if anyone wants any. I'll just, put them
Yeah,
straight or feel free
And
to
I'll
grab
send this
two.
out to everybody afterwards.
We started in 2008. First year, we had $2.5 million of property taxes, and that was capped because of the Tabor restriction very year one. They collected more than that, but they had to return some back to the taxpayers. So that was the only year up until 2017 that property taxes trended lower than sales taxes. Then we move along into 2016, 2017. As you know, that's when the big reduction in the valuation of oil and gas property hit the Garfield County. And you can see that property tax dipped below the sales tax trend for 17, 18, and 19. Some of you were here during that time, and those were the times that was tough. We laid off 30% of our staff in 2018. Very traumatic, very emotional. It still is sensitive to a lot of people, so we don't want to do that again. So again, we're just going through the history of our, the line tells a story. And then in 2019, the library board went to the voters and asked for an increase in property tax revenue of a 1.5 mil levy. It was passed 55%, I believe, in favor. That was collected then in 2020. That's where you see a big upward swing in that blue line in 2020. Revenues for property tax, if you look at the numbers, there's numbers on here, went from 2.5 million of revenue up to 6 million after that vote. Okay, and then the lines are trending upward here towards the right past 2020. And then if you recall the Wayfair ruling that allowed online or required online retailers to start collecting local sales tax, that's when that red line started to trend up from where it was prior. And if you look at that red line, 2020, 2021, 22, and even into 23, it's trending at a pretty decent clip upwards. If you just arbitrarily just drafted a little trend line and followed the trend upward on that same trend, I kind of did that for my sake of analysis, just to see where this might end up in 2028. Because I don't see right now the trend of that going down anytime soon unless there's a significant local recession. Sales tax is purely driven by the local economy, people living here, people driving through here. So that number is in my view, trending upward. The reason why it's dipping down here in 2024 is the $3.9 million projection for 2024 was a projection from Garfield County Finance and Treasurer's Office for 2024's budget. So That one then trended back down as a, you know me, I'm pretty conservative about this, so I trended it down as well, just to set the budget at 3.9. And then after that, I trended it at 2% for the next 5 years through 2028. So that's just a simple inflationary adjustment from 24 through 28. The blue line then, you can see we've been talking about this now for 2 years. We had increases to the BTU, which is the British thermal unit. It's the commodity that's used to value natural gas in the economy. That went up for 2 years in a row. We knew that was going to aid us in more revenues, and you can see that through the steep blue line, going from, in 2022, property tax revenues of 5.3 million up to this year of 9.6 for 2024. So in that time frame, we've gone up, we've gone up $3 million of revenue in that time frame. And guess what? As we've been talking about, for 2025, the BTU landed at 2.56. So the valuation for ending in 23 is our 2025 revenue for oil and gas. So that BTU then resets back to 2.56. In these years, it had been up to 3.9 and 6.1. So now it's back down to the 2.56. That was the level of our revenues in 2021. So what I did then is I projected what does 25 look like with our current abstract of all of our properties except oil and gas, and using the oil and gas valuation from 2022. And that's what I did here at in 2025. So you'll see after that big spike, there's another, it levels off again. So that, and you also notice is before that big spike, we're still higher than where we were in 2021 and 2022. And the reason for that is for the valuation of all the other properties this year went up 40% in valuation. That's a 2-year pricing valuation that we'll recognize for 2 years. So that's why that line then in 2025 stays fairly flat for another 2 years because we're going to keep that same valuation for 2 years. I don't know what oil and gas is going to be for 2026 or 2027. All I know is we have 2 years in advance for that one. So again, for this oil and gas number through 2027, I just did another 2% projection of growth. It won't be that, but just to get something in here to reach us through 2027. And as you recall, the 1.0 mill levy that the voters passed back in 2008, actually they passed it in 7 for 2008, that sunsets in 2027. So 2027 is our last year collecting that 1.0 mill levy that the voters approved. It was a 20-year mill levy. That one sunsets in 2027, barring any future elections. The 1.5 mill levy that they passed in 2019 for 2020, that one does not sunset. That 1.5 mill levy was in perpetuity. It will keep going. So that one doesn't sunset.
What was the other sunset? Is 2020?
2027.
Okay.
So 2027 is our last year to collect that extra 1 mil. Right now we're collecting 2.5 mill levy. So then in 2028, I put in here what happens if the mill levy goes away. Okay, so we're going to lose $3.6 million of revenue. Currently with that revenue, we're paying a mortgage payment of $1.6 million. So the mortgage payment is now paid off, so the buildings will be free and clear. But we're still going to have the differential between the mill levy and the mortgage, which is about $2 million differential right now. If the sales tax continues to trend on that imaginary trend that I was kind of mentioning a little bit ago, if that sales tax trend continues on the current path that it's been on for the last 3 years, or even if it stays relatively stable for the next couple of years, that will intersect halfway between that steep blue line on the right. Okay? That one could easily, I could see that one landing around 5.5 million for that line for sales tax in 2028. Do you see what I'm talking about there? If that red line keeps trending at that same,
like this?
take it from the top of 2023 and keep that same
Like-
angle.
The
Like-
top of 23.
Like I did?
You have the
Yeah,
top of
like you
23
did.
all the way in that same arc
both did
towards
it.
the right.
Okay.
So if that happens, that absorbs the differential in the mill levy from when we took it out to where we would end up in 2028 at the current projection. If anything else in this whole analysis changes dramatically, like the oil and gas industry, since that's the most volatile industry in our property tax projection, this could really look a lot different. So the point of this is just to kind of have it here and say, okay, we've got a couple years to figure this out before we decide if we're going to consider doing a new ballot initiative in 2026, 7, to consider extending this mill levy or having it look a little different or whatever it might look like. So that's why I wanted to present this here, is to give you a high-level picture, projection where we are now with 2025. I've got a good clear picture where we're going to be in 2025. And by the way, that 2025 number, again, we're still very healthy financially, and we're still higher than where we were in 2021 or 2022 for property tax. And in the meantime, sales taxes continue to increase. So, and then the chart on the very bottom, I just combined the total revenues together just to show you on a bar kind of where our revenues total went through those 20 years. And that just combines all that data together just to give you another graphic of what that looks like. Are there any questions,
I
comments?
just want to add one thing. The other part that you don't see on this graph is our reserves. And so one of the reasons that we've been so aggressive about setting money aside is that our primary revenue is volatile. And so it goes up and down like this, but because of these reserves and our ability to spread it out over 5 years, our staffing won't be going like this. We can maintain and predict and provide sustainable services.
Yeah, that was the whole point in 2023, for 23's budget and 24's budget, knowing we have the spike, that these are, there's capital projects that John was talking about. We're going to have 4 more of them just like it lined up. And so that funding was the intention of this additional funding was going to be used to be able to fund those in the next 3 or 4, 5 years.
I think of these reserves as a rainy day fund, and in 2027, it's going to start raining.
This is so beautiful. I'm serious, Kevin, because if this was with numbers, it would just be like 15 pages long, and I wouldn't read it or I understand it, but I like pictures and colors.
Okay.
Doesn't it help? Even those of you that like numbers?
Yep, those are ones.
I was like, I didn't know that we're supposed to make comments. I started to see like Joan making comments and reports, and I was like, okay.
He was figuring out if that was really 2%,
Yeah, right. John, I can tell you have a question.
He has
I'm glad
a
that you
comment.
did.
Do you have a question?
Well, I think it's great and will be helpful in front of the Garfield County Commissioners talking about the budget, because just so I understand what you said, which is we now have certainty about the gas revenues for 2025. It's going to be 2.56 BTU. It's like $3 million less,
Yes.
close to it,
It
$3
is.
million less.
Correct.
And that's why we did have excess and we put it in reserves this year. But that's why we did not
Right.
sort of vote to lower the mill levy, is because we can see this coming.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that will be a comment then.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
This is very helpful to explain that, and it may be a question on the 15th.
I expect it.
So yeah, I think this is great. Thank you.
So graph of the year award.
Yeah, but he's in competition with himself.
And by the way, this will be presented to staff at a soon-to-come staff meeting, but we wanted to give the board the reveal initially. So,
Okay.
Any other questions? Any questions on the financial report this month that's in your packet? Nothing too unusual in there. Sales tax again keeps holding its own. It's still going up. So financial statements are in good shape. The audit is underway. I'm excited. And anyway, so we're good there.
Okay, just,
Anything else?
well, cart yourself back
I
to your
know.
seat. Thank